Hello and welcome to my latest Let's Play video. Let's play The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Now this is probably my favorite PC game. It is one of the greatest games ever made in my opinion, and really it's the only Western RPG I've played a lot of. I'm a big fan of console RPGs, otherwise known as JRPGs. I play a lot of those. But most Western style RPGs kind of intimidate me, and Morrowind is really no exception, except that, I played it when I was, 13. So I really love this game. It's a big it has a very special place in my heart, and I'm hoping, and really I know more about this game than just about any game. I've played this game so much. You could say that it's probably the game I know either the most about or the second most about of all games. So I was thinking, well, I'm playing Crusader Kings, which I know a lot about. So I was hoping that, I could play some Morrowind and maybe share my knowledge of that also. This game has a pretty steep learning curve compared to later Elder Scrolls games. I think it's a superior game in just about every way to both Oblivion and Skyrim. But, it does take some getting into, whereas those kind of lead you into the game with a kind of hour-long or so introductory section. This game has nothing like that, and you're more free to do your own thing, but that can also lead to a lot of frustration for newer players. I know lots of little tricks in this game to get off the ground and to really never have any problems. I'm going to play it on slightly higher difficulty than normal, just 10. That's mostly for the LP. Normally I'd play it on max hardness just because I'm really good at this game. But, I'm hoping that what'll happen is I'll play this game, essentially, I'll come up with these every so often. I still plan to have Crusader Kings be kind of my main one, but the early videos I hope especially to be very helpful for people who are just looking to get into the game and to maybe take a leap into something like this that seems at the outset to be very overwhelming, and really it's true. That's how I feel towards most of these games, as I mentioned, and this is the only game that only such game, PC RPG, that I know a lot about and can help people get into. So I thought I'd do that. So let's start. And I'm going to be quiet during this opening sequence.
They have taken you from the Imperial City's prison, first by carriage and now by boat. To the east, to Morrowind. Fear not, for I am watchful. You have been chosen.
Wake up. We're here. Why are you shaking? Are you okay? Wake up. You were dreaming. What's your name?
Your name is Giab, and he is my favorite character in this game. In Oblivion, you find out that he is responsible for eliminating a specific enemy that will be a constant problem in this game. Probably my least favorite thing about this game, actually, is that enemy. Now, as for the name, in general, when I play these games, I always name my main character Funky. So in this game, I can name it more than just Funky, so I'll name him Funky Student. And there's a character in a game that's named Funky Student, and he's my all-time favorite video game character. So I will be Funky Student.
Well, not even last night's storm could wake you. I heard them say we've reached Morrowind. I'm sure they'll let us go.
Well, I hope you're right, Giab. What are you going to get up to?
Quiet. Here comes the guard.
This is where you get off. Come with me.
Alright, so here's where they teach you how to move. It's pretty simple. This is the only part of the game that's really heavy into voice acting, so I'll be a little quieter in this early part of the game, but otherwise I'm going to be talking quite a bit. Also, you can press shift to run. There's a controls section in the game. You sort of just read that and they'll tell you what to do. How you doing?
Get yourself up on deck and let's keep this as civil as possible.
Not a very nice guy. Okay, spacebar does stuff. Great.
The sooner you leave, the sooner we can move on.
Boy, these guys are all so nice. Ciadanin.
This is where they want you. Head down to the dock and I'll show you to the census
Love
office.
your hairstyle, bro. So it looks like there's a lighthouse or something over there. We're in a nice coastal city. There's a giant tick, which is cool. What else do we got? We got some trees. Swamp. We look like we're in the middle of New Orleans over here. It's the big swamp.
You finally arrived, but our records don't show from where.
Okay, this is the first major decision you have to make. You have to decide your race. Usually what I do is as a newbie or as a guy who just wants to be a general, I pick a Breton. I really like their specials and their skill bonuses. Their skill bonuses get basically, all this does is it adds this amount to these individual skills. And I'll go over the skills in a later video, not in a later video, but in a minute. And the specials for Breton are great. You get 0.5 times the amount of magic. You get a resistance to all magic, 50%, and you get this shield spell for 60 seconds. It can save your life early on. The Breton is probably my favorite. I'll go over all of them, though. Argonians, I don't really like them that much. You don't get disease that often, and it's really easy to cure. Poison, getting poisoned almost never happens. Water breathing is pretty good, but in general I like to walk on water rather than swim. Their skill bonuses are okay. But they don't really have a specialty, and they're not. And medium armor, which is, their armor is pretty useless. Dark elves, I hate dark elves. I hate them mostly because of the fact that there are so many in this game that are just jerks. Playing as a dark elf is okay though. Their athletics, getting bonus in athletics or acrobatics in general is something you just want to avoid. High elves are horrible. They're probably the worst. That's because they're weak against magic, and fire, and frost, and shock. They're awful. And they're the best mage, probably, but Bretons are almost as good, and they have far better specials. Imperials are good. They're probably my second favorite next to the Bretons. That's because they have these things, Star of the West and the Voice of the Emperor. These can be really handy for certain classes, and they also have good skill bonuses. Long blade, mercantile, speechcraft. These are core skills that I use constantly. Also, I like light armor pretty well. Blunt weapon is useful, and hand to hand is not horrible in this game. The Khajiit are good also. They're especially good for thieves. Acrobatics sucks. That's their only bad thing, but their Eye of Night and Eye of Fear are both really good. Demoralized Humanoid is an underrated spell that basically makes anybody who's attacking you, as long as they're human, or in other words, anybody from one of these races, they will run away, and so you basically won't have to fight them. So if you're fighting multiple guys, they're quite good. Nords are, standard sort of warrior guys. They're strong in axes, blunt weapons, heavy armor, long blade, medium armor, and spear. Now, medium armor sucks, as I mentioned. It's not very good unless you have the expansions. And the thing is, the expansions are for higher level people, so early on, medium armor sucks. They're immune to frost, which is pretty good. They resist shock, which is quite good. They have this weaker shield than the Breton, and they have a, frost spell that's okay. Orcs are similar. They are good at heavy armor, axe, they're warriors. They resist magic, but not as much as the Bretons, and they have this berserk spell, which is crazy. It basically makes you really slow, but you crush stuff, and it's pretty good because you never really have to chase after stuff. Red Guards are probably the best warriors, I would say, and that's because their skills are more evenly split, and they have this adrenaline rush thing, which has no it has no real weaknesses. It just makes you Superman basically for 50 seconds. It's quite good. Resisting poison and resisting common disease is also alright. I mean, it's not great. As I mentioned with the Argonians, it's not super good. Wood Elves they're decent thieves. I would probably actually pick them over Khajiit for thieves, but I never play thieves in this game, and the main reason for that is sneak is not very useful. In Oblivion and Skyrim, that's probably the best thing about those games, is they made stealth more useful. In this game, it's very difficult to actually level your sneak unless you're willing to pay a lot of money, so it's not that good at the beginning of the game. And sneak is kind of the core ability, you know, that you need to pickpocket guys and to sneak into houses and stuff. It's not as useful, and it's not as necessary to be useful, because in those games the world kind of, like, people would follow you into places and do all sorts of stuff like that. In this game, as long as you're outside of people's line of sight, you can steal whatever you want. And I'll show you. So for the purposes of this game, I'm going to play a red guard, and the reason is just because I'm Funky Student. Really, there's no other reason. And if I were to recommend a mod for people, it would just be Better Faces. That's the only mod I ever use. I'm not using it in this one just because I don't really, you know, I want it to be kind of a vanilla game for anybody who just downloads it. But, you know, mods in this game, there are lots of really cool ones. I might talk about some that I like, but for now, I'll just pick Funky Student, and he'll be a red guard. But I do recommend for a first-time player to be a Breton.
Great. I'm sure you'll fit right in. Follow me up to the office and they'll finish your release.
And as I mentioned, the voice acting in this game is pretty minor. There's a lot of text, though, and you pop it. I'll show you. How's it going?
Yes, we've been expecting you. You'll have to be recorded before you're officially
this
released.
guy has a great name,
There are 2
Secusius
ways you can do
Ergala.
this, and the choice is yours.
One of the best. So this is where you choose your classes. I always choose a custom class. Doing this is fun. Answering the questions is something I do recommend to do just because it's enjoyable. Giving them into just picks from a predetermined classes. I always pick custom class every single time because I like knowing exactly what I'm doing. So I might as well go over all the skills and stuff now. Specialization, you'll see what it says. So there's 3 kinds of specialization. There's combat, magic, and stealth. Basically, once you choose these, you'll get skill bonuses in each of these skills that's in this little box here. So for combat, I'd get a little skill bonus in block, medium armor, blunt weapon, axe, athletics, armor, heavy armor, long blade, and spear. Magic, I do the same for those, and stealth for these. I always pick combat, just because combat is the most overall useful thing in the game. Stealth is not that well developed in this. Like, you'd basically only be able to use daggers and marksman. You can do it, but I definitely recommend combat. Your favorite attributes. For that, I tend to just keep them as they are. I like intelligence because it determines magicka, and I like strength because strength is useful. These are kind of the core stats, and the only way to raise these is through levels. And this game has a kind of weird leveling system. And I'll talk about that also. But basically, each of these so there's basically 2 stats per specialization, and then there's personality and luck, and I'll talk about each. Strength, I mean, everything's kind of self-explanatory. They do a really good job in the UI. Strength affects your starting health, how much you could carry, your maximum fatigue, and how much damage you do in melee. And this kind of gives you a clue as to why I like to pick strength. Notice how it says it affects your starting health. So to have a higher amount of strength is very useful at the beginning because it'll give you more health. And you can choose to level it up gradually from there, but if you have a high strength at the beginning, you can your health will be very high early on, and that can mean the difference in life and death in a lot of early game. And as I've said, the early game is the toughest part because, you know, you'll be weak. Intelligence just determines your magicka. This is how you get more magic. It's basically mana. Willpower is good for fatigue. This is kind of ties in with intelligence because it deals with a lot of magic stuff. I think it does more than this, but I'm not positive. Agility is useful for thieves, really almost entirely, because it controls a lot of the stealth skills, and it also lets your ability to dodge and hit targets, which is very good. Agility is probably the best skill, really, next to strength. Speed, just how fast you move, so I love speed. It, just literally just makes you run faster. Endurance, starting health, again, your health gain per level, which means that this is what determines your how much health you gain a level. And your fatigue, this is basically your two or your three main stats. Personality, I love it because I've almost always play kind of like fast-talking, devil-may-care character. I like to specialize in speechcraft and mercantile, which this governs. So it's really useful. And luck is good. It's just luck. I tend to always put a point into luck when I level up, but not always. So I guess I'll do endurance here because I am a red guard. I'm going to be using magic, but I guess limitedly. And a lot of the time you can get magic by, if you have enough money, you just make a lot of magic things. So with like enchant, stuff like that. So I'll get into that. Now my major skills, I always pick long blade as my first major skill because you find a lot of long blades. It's pretty much the core combat skill for my characters. I also like heavy armor because I have high strength. Will have high strength as a red guard. It's good. There's the best heavy armor. Heavy armor is pretty easy to find, and it's common, and it's really strong. Medium armor is better. Like I like medium armor more because it doesn't weigh as much, which is actually very important. But it's not as easy to find. Like most of the good medium armor, you'll find like in the expansions, and some of that like orcish armor, which is the best medium armor, is just so much worse than heavy armor. It's not really worth it unless you get an adamantium armor set, which is really hard to get. So I don't really like using medium armor. So I'm gonna change that to something else. I'm gonna change that to speechcraft. And I love speechcraft because it's super useful for quests. It's very, very good for getting cheaper things, and for this trick I like to use to get gold, especially early on. And I'm going to be showing you that this episode. I love basically being able to trick people into doing what I want them to do. It's very useful through bribes and stuff like that. And similarly, I like mercantile a lot. Mercantile goes hand in hand with speechcraft. It lets you get more money. Buying low and selling high is perfect. It's very good. These both are very complementary, and I love using them in tandem. So here you see my three major skills here. My fourth skill, or my fifth, these are ones I almost always put, no matter what my class is. It's personal preference. You could pick, a different blade, or if you want to pick like I do recommend these, however, especially if you want an easier time early on. For my other major skill, it really depends. In this case, I'm gonna do restoration because I want to be able to heal my guy. I'm not gonna start out with a healing spell, so this will be pretty useless early on. But having a healing spell is very good. My minor skills, basically the difference between this is a major skill will start out at 30 and will contribute more towards and will be easier to raise, and minor skills start out at 15 and will be slightly more difficult to raise, and skills that do not fall into either of these two categories are the most difficult to raise, and they start off at 5. And of course this takes into account your specialization and your race and all sorts of other stuff. So for minor skills, I like to have marksman, and that's just because I like, having arrows actually hit. In this game, just pointing at the enemy won't necessarily mean you'll hit the enemy with your bow and arrow. So you need your skill in it to be high, and I use it a lot. So especially not especially early game, but I do use it a lot early game. So I like that it'll occasionally hit. It's really not such a big deal. And I also will get a few other magic spells here. The main ones I like are Mysticism and Alteration. And the main reason I like those is because there's some very, very useful spells that just make life a lot easier in the game. Like, for example, Levitation, Teleportation. They're just extremely like Alteration lets you water walk, water breathe, levitate, jump higher. It just makes getting around a lot easier. Mysticism lets you teleport, lets you do telekinesis, soulbind, which is really good. So these two are the core magic spells that I always recommend everybody get. I put them as minor skills, but you could also put them in place of restoration. In fact, I might do that. But these are both really good. And now I guess the last two I don't really care that much about, so I'm probably going to just put whatever I feel like. So I might as well go over the others. Block in this game is not very good. And the reason it's not very good is because it's basically random. The higher your skill, the more of a chance you have of blocking. But you have to have a shield, and you have to have, a high block skill for it to be any good. And this is the kind... And there are several... Basically, I put skills into 3 categories. I put them into almost impossible to level, and then, really, really too easy to level, and then things that are perfectly easy to level. And I almost always only put skills here that are relatively easy to level, that will level up. So, for example, Athletics, that falls into a way too easy to level. And it's bad to have that because you'll level up too fast, and you'll end up skewing your stats, and you'll fight really hard enemies early on. So block is almost impossible to level, and I only recommend putting skill points into it with trainers. And so I will do that eventually, but that'll be late game because it becomes expensive. Armor is a crafting skill. It's not really a crafting skill, but it helps you maintain it. It's okay, but I don't like using it that much because you basically have to carry around a lot of heavy things, and I tend to not like to do that in order to make it really good. So armor is okay, and I'll be using it, but I'm not going to put it as one of my main skills. Medium armor, I mentioned why I don't really like medium armor. Heavy armor, I like it. Blunt weapon is really good, so I'm actually going to do that because blunt weapon, you'll have a few pretty useful hammers in the game, and especially towards the end, you'll run into some hammers that are really, really, really good. And at that point, I like to have the blunt weapon high, and generally I'll train it with a trainer at that point as well. But might as well have it there. I might use some blunt weapons. I might not. Long blade's awesome. Axe is also pretty good. Spear is pretty good. These are all different weapon types. Pick whatever you want. Athletics, I highly recommend not using as a skill because it's really, really easy to raise. As long as you hold down shift and run a lot, you will get this up just naturally. So don't worry about it. Enchant is another crafting skill, and this is pretty good. But again, I won't probably be using it enough at the beginning to where I feel it's necessary, because later in the game you'll have enough money to where you can really just pour skill points into something when you want it, when you need it. So I'm only really concerned about what's useful early game with these skills. Enchant is not one of those things. Destruction is pretty good. It's good if you're a mage. If you're really planning on being a pure mage, this is pretty much has to be one of your major skills, because it would be your primary damage dealing thing. A lot of the times I'll use this as a minor skill, but since I'm playing a non-magic focused character, I'm not going to bother. Alteration, I've mentioned, is really good. Illusion's pretty good minor skill for a thief, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Paralyze is incredibly good But other than that, it's not something I'd really worry about. I definitely recommend if you are trying to be a magic person though, to go ahead and get illusion just for paralyze pretty much. And calm and enrage can be pretty good. Charm, all of those things are all right. I'm not gonna worry about it. But conjuration's like summoning. It's pretty good. I don't like it that much, but it's useful for mages. Yeah, it basically lets you summon crazy things. And mysticism, I went over. It's pretty good. The teleportation's the main thing that's good about it. Restoration's obviously healing. Alchemy, it lets you make potions, which towards the end is nuts. When you get a really high alchemy skill, you can make potions that basically make you invincible. But, you know, again, you can just pour skill points into that, and so don't worry about it. Unarmored, I hate unarmored. Like, it's okay. It seems like pretty good, but you know, in general, you need armor because you get killed really fast. At the point at which you would be able to be hit, unarmored's not going to help you that much. So, you know, I prefer heavy armor. I suppose if you're playing a really sneaky character or really magic-based character, it could be good. But I'm not, so I'm not going to worry about it. Security is going to be my next one that I do. Where the heck did it go? Okay. And the reason is it's basically the best stealth-related thing. It helps you pick locks, disarm traps. The main reason I'm doing it is for the traps. I never really need to worry that much about picking locks in this game because I tend to get spells for that, and those fall under, you know, mysticism. Actually, I think it's alteration, and and one of the first early things I like to do is I make an amulet or something that has will open any lock. So security is good for traps, but other than that, not that great. Sneak, I mentioned sneak. It's you're really good in theory, but it's almost impossible to train. So putting it as a major or minor skill is not that good because it won't be contributing to your level up. I like to pour points into it late, but it's not as useful as it is in the later Elder Scrolls games. Acrobatics, never put it as a major or minor skill. You will level acrobatics up like mad just because I always jump everywhere, and so will you because it's faster. Light armor is really good, actually. There's a lot of good light armor out there. I just prefer heavy armor because I'm playing a straight strength-based character. But if you're not, I definitely recommend light armor. Short blade, there are really good daggers out there. They exist. In fact, one of the late game weapons that's really good is a dagger. But again, that's late game, so I can just pour points into it. Not worried about it. Hand-to-hand is alright. I enjoy doing hand-to-hand. It's fun. It doesn't do direct damage, but it does fatigue-based damage, so it's fun to just punch dudes to death. I've played straight monks where I've had hand-to-hand and unarmored and stuff like that, and they've been a lot of fun. But in this case, I'm not doing that. So these are going to be my major and minor skills, my specializations, my favorite attributes, and the name of my my class. I'm not going to be an adventurer. People who are familiar with where Funky Student is from will know probably what I'm gonna name my guy. He is the Riddle Master. Okay, and class description just for fun. Riddle Master is he's the master of funky riddles. His mind slinging takes work. Alright, and now we're going.
Very good. The letter that preceded you mentioned you were born under a certain sign. And what would that be?
Now your sign basically determines little stats, and to me, I mean, there's a lot of signs that do little things. This fortifies attack, this, opens 50 points. There's really only one sign, and that's the lady. Look at this. Fortifies your personality permanently by 25 points and your endurance permanently by 25 points. And these are in Turtle. You will always have these. It's by far the best. All these others are okay, but, there's no reason not, maybe you could make a case for the mage if you're a mage. Maybe. there's absolutely nothing else that is even worth it. Like the steed, maybe, but you get 2 major abilities fortified for free if you pick the lady, and they're both really good, so pick it.
Interesting. Now, before I stamp these papers, make sure this information is correct.
Alright, brother. So I'm Funky Student, I'm a Red Guard, I'm a Riddle Master, and I'm a lady. Now, at this point, it's, you know, if you don't know what you're doing with your race or whatever, this is where I recommend to change it. So you'll notice my long blade skill is really, really high. I'm going to be able to do really well with it. Heavy armor is the same. Speechcraft, Mercantile, Restoration are all 30, which is the base. I get a high blunt weapon, and these are all things based on my combat. So like I got +5 because I picked combat as my specialty. And so like short blade and all these others, and then I get +5 because of my race on those. These are my abilities. I resist disease, I resist poison, and I have these amazing things from the lady. They're just eternal. I can use this power as a spell, and I begin with Hearth Heal, which is pretty much all I'll need for the game. And I have 60 strength, which is really high. My endurance is insane because of the lady spell. My personality is really, really good because of the ladies thing again. Agility is not terrible. Speed isn't terrible. Willpower and intelligence are in fact terrible, but I can't do much about it. I had to sacrifice something. So Funky Student is not the greatest mage, but he can kick some people's butt, and we will see that soon. Okay. Now.
Show your papers to the captain when you exit to get your release fee.
Alright, thank you, man. So here you have to take these papers. You'll just be like, hey, and one of the cool things about this game is all the books are really interesting. I definitely recommend reading all the books if you decide to play this game. And maybe I'll do like a bonus episode where I read a bunch of books or something like that sometime. But that won't happen today. Now, this is the first trick. So I'm going to teach you, and it's very, very useful, and it will come in handy throughout, you know, playing this game if you know what you're doing. So you'll see right here that there's this nice limeware platter here. It weighs 5 pounds and its value of 650. Now, one of my favorite things to do in this game is to basically abuse the bartering system, and that's why I pick Speechcraft and Mercantile. If I do it right, I'll never run out of money. And that's because I'm Funky Student and I'm a Riddle Master and I can trick people real good. But in order to do that, you need something of high value. And this limeware platter is perfect. So if I take this limeware platter, I'm stealing it. And so this guy will run over to me and take whatever it is that I have. But watch this. So these guys are going to react to my stealing of this, but my crime has been reported, etc. But I can drop the limeware platter onto the ground, and this guy will come over to me. And because I haven't, you know, been released yet, they are like, well, whatever, you know. They don't actually arrest me or make me pay for anything. So at this point, I'll just say goodbye, say what's up, man, and I'll just take the limeware platter. And now I have this very valuable limeware platter that I'm going to use, and there's nothing they can do about it. Now I can say hello to this guy, and I'll talk to him. I could persuade him, and that would increase this disposition ranking, which would get me certain things, but there's no point with this guy. He's not a shopkeeper, basically, or a quest person. And this is the way information is done. Basically, you get little topics. So I click on this guy, then he writes this. So apparently the Imperial Legion has the garrisons at Fort Pelagiad, Hawkmouth Fort, and Ebonheart, Fort Moonmoth and Valmora, Fort Buckmouth and Aldrun, and Fort Darius and Nisus. And he's asking me if I want to join the Imperial Legion. Sure. All garrisons are at full strength except Death's Head Legion at Fort Darius. So he's saying basically if I want to join the Imperial Legion, I need to go to Fort Darius in Nisus. Great, thank you. We don't know where Nisus is yet, but thank you. Another thing I should mention, if you get busted in this town, basically if you're caught stealing, they'll take all the stuff that you stole that's marked as stolen in your inventory, and they'll put it in this chest. You can try to pick this lock. Obviously he's standing right next to it, so it won't work that well. Eventually, as part of a quest line, you'll actually be able to gain access to these, but that's like a long way away. And once you do that, you can get into it, and you can basically steal whatever you want and get arrested for whatever you want, and just get it out of this chest. It's pretty awesome. So now we're gonna head out, and we're supposed to head through that door there, but there's lots of stuff over here to steal, and it kind of encourages you to do that. So here we're gonna first grab this dagger. So this is like a little tutorial how to use your items. So now I have this dagger. Use F. So now I have a dagger, stabbing dudes. Yeah, pretty simple. That dagger sucks though, so we're gonna be upgrading it almost immediately. Now I always go down here first, and I steal literally everything I find. And this is all the loot that's in these things is random. Some of it, sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's not. I'm not even worrying about what's in here. I'm just taking everything because there's no harm in it. So, you know, those are all like alchemy ingredients and stuff. Take every single thing you find. This, you can rest here. I'll talk more about resting later. There's no real reason to do that. So just take everything you find. Here's a book. We'll read this book some other time. Here's some goblets, you know, all this stuff. In general, I like to keep my books, and that's just because I like hoarding the books in this game. If you need the gold, feel free to sell them. I hoard them, and I have a specific place where I hoard them. Excuse me, 1 second. Sorry about that. Now we have a lockpick, but don't worry about it. I'll use it in good time. That was some alcohol. Here's some bread. More stuff like that. Knife. Here's a little note by that guy. So some guy named Hriscar. Anyway, yeah, so you can equip them, and that's how you read them. It's paper. So we literally just stole every single thing in this entire storehouse. And we have this little chest. So what we do is you equip the lockpick, and you point it at the chest, and you just keep trying it until it succeeds. You open it, you get some dope gold. That's our first amount of money. We'll have to make it the first bit of gold you get, you need to make it kind of go as far as possible. Okay, now we have a map menu, so that goes here. Usually I like the map menu to be pretty big. And these are going to be your core menus. There's also a magic menu that you get, but whatever. Okay, so here we get a nice magic item. Engraved Ring of Healing. It restores 1 to 5 points on self. We also get some crappy things. So that basically just gave us our magic menu. Yep. And you can organize this however you want. Usually this is kind of how I organize it, because I like having my inventory large. I have a lot of strength, so I can hold up to 300 pounds of stuff. And the way the magic menu works is you have your innate powers, which I mentioned is like your class stuff, your spells, and then your magic items. As I've said, you can get really good magic items, and in fact you can create your own later in the game. So you never really need a lot of spells. I will have some core spells that I use constantly, but I will also eventually make magic items for those spells, because it tends to be more or less unreliable due to your endurance, and I'll explain that later. But okay, so now that we've stolen all this stuff, we can talk to this captain. We're supposed to talk to him and get the stuff, and we shouldn't steal anything from here, even though it can be pretty useful to do. I mentioned that because there's this key here that if he weren't standing this close to me, I would totally steal. It's really almost always random where he's standing. Usually he stands more like here, so you see him right away. But he's standing like literally right next to the key, which means that if I steal it, he'll take out all this stuff. So I'm not gonna bother. So I'm just gonna talk to him. So he's taking my identification papers. Thank you. Word of your arrival only reached me yesterday. His background isn't important. He's here to welcome us to Morrowind. I'm going to ask about your background because you say it's so not important. He's a knight errant. That's his rank in this faction. There are tons and tons of factions in this game. If you've played other Elder Scrolls games, you know that there are factions. But in both Oblivion and Skyrim, the faction system was much reduced from what it was in this game. In those games, there were like 4, maybe 5 factions. In this game, there's like, I want to say there's like 13 or 14. There's a lot. And all of them have really substantial storyline, quest lines. So it's pretty serious. Okay, so he's telling us we're in Morrowind. He doesn't know why we're here. Doesn't know why we're released from prison and shipped here. But Uriel, apparently the Emperor himself, gave us the authorization. So he has instructions on our duties. Let's talk to him. This package came with news of your arrival. You were to take it to Caius Cosades in the town of Balmora. Go to the South Wall Corner Club and ask for Caius Cosades. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I know it's Caius, but I don't know how to pronounce this last name. So I always just say Cosades, even though it's probably Cosades. They'll know where to find him. Serve him as you would serve the Emperor himself. I also have a letter for you and a dispersal to your name. So this is basically how they're starting the main quest of the game. They want us to go see this guy Caius Cosades. Report to Caius Cosades in Balmora. I can't tell you where to find him, but you are to go to the South Wall Corner Club and ask for him. Someone there can direct you to him. I always like to ask him just about a bunch of little things. So, for example, my trade. He's a knight errant of the Order of Ebonheart and an imperial emissary attached to the Census and Exes office. So that's just this guy's personal little life story. It's pretty neat. And these are like races, so he'll like talk about a little bit about himself and like their stuff. These always repeat. Everybody says the same thing. He's proud to be an imperial. They're basically just like the Romans. You can think of them like Romans. And to me, that's great. I love Romans. Some people don't, but I do. Alright, so Balmora. It's north of Saint-Denis. The road passes Pelagiad village and Fort Pelagiad, crosses a deep ravine, passes Fort Muth. So in other words, it's really far away. And he's saying, yeah, the South Wall Corner Club is on southeast Balmora. So this conversation will be saved, so we can actually go look back at it at any time. For more detailed directions, talk to Elone the Scout at Errol's Trade House here in Saint-Denis. But take my advice, you're new here. Take the Silt Strider to Balmora. Fast, cheap, safe. Cross the bridge and head east. Can't miss it. So, Silt Strider. This is basically the fast travel in this game. Unlike later games in the series, you can't just fast travel. You have to pay for it, and it only goes to certain places. So, I like that a lot, and it lets you, because it lets you, like, explore the world a lot, and you have to like kind of learn your way around. It's kind of a big thing. So at this point, they basically like, later, dude, you're on your own. You can press J to look at the journal, and I'll do that. I'll go over that in a minute. But it's really, this is where the game opens up, and that intro was really, I spent a long time doing that. But it probably could take you like 4 or 5 minutes to get into the meat of the game.
Yes.
And now we're just walking around talking to these dudes. So here's our first journal entry, and this is kind of points you towards where we need to go. And you can click on any of these and see what people have said about it. So this is him telling us where Balmora is. Case Cosades. We're supposed to go to the South Wall Corner. This is just in case you forget stuff. Tribunal, when it came out, redid the journal system to where it's really good, and it's really easy to sort for stuff. You can sort by quests, this is our quest. Every single thing pertaining to this quest will show up. You'll see topics. So for example, if I look at Imperial Legion, we'll see everything everyone's ever said about those topics. So this guy said that. So I think that's really cool. And every kind of person in this game has like a somewhat notable, like other than like, guard here, but they have like a sort of personality. So this guy Fargoth is one of my personal favorite characters in the game, just because he's so shrimpy and goofy. I love Fargoth, and so does everybody. So first thing I always do is I go to Errol's Trade House here. And the reason I do that is because this is where I'm going to make a lot of money, and that'll last me a little while. So I say hey to what's up, Errol. He's the first trader in the game. And you can ask him about like latest rumors, little advice, but I'm not too worried about that right now. I'm more worried about getting some dope money. So I always bribe 10 gold. I never bribe more than that unless it's like a very serious situation. I don't like to admire, intimidate, or taunt because admire can backfire big time, and these actually almost always make them negative. So bribing 10 gold, notice how much it worked. And you just, the trick is you just do that until, you know, and it's always a dice roll. You just keep doing that. And eventually it'll go up to 100 if your speechcraft is good enough. And this train also will train your speechcraft. So, you know, I'm getting it pretty high. Again, like this is sort of luck based. So it's sort of a dumb thing, but, you know, eventually, after spending a lot of gold on this guy, I got it to 100. And now that it's at 100, I can very, very favorably trade with him. So I'm going to rearrange this menu really quick. So there we go. There's my inventory. And I always start by basically, this is, so I'm going to just explain this in this menu. This shows how much gold I have. This shows how much gold he has. So he can never buy anything for more than 800 gold. So I'm going to click on this limeware platter. Just notice its value is 650. He'll never give you that much. So he's saying, okay, I'll buy it for 452. You can then change how much he wants to buy it for by just holding on this. So I'm going to say, no, dude, you'll buy it for 535. So he just bought it for 535. And then I'll buy it back, and he asks for 452, but no, I'll say, dude, no, I'll buy it for 380. So you see, I just basically made 120 gold. And what you do is you just do that again and again until he, you know, has run out of, has like as little gold as possible. So you can just keep doing that in bigger and bigger chunks until, you know, he's basically broke. So I'll just, you know, and then I'll do max sale, 484, and then I'll buy it back for as little as possible. So, you know, 350 maybe. I don't know if he'll accept it. So yeah, my mercantile skill went up, and I got a lot of money. So that limeware platter basically just paid for itself. Now I'm gonna just sell all this other stuff that's useless. Silverware is always good to sell. Knives, pitchers. These things are completely worthless. So selling this stuff is no problem. Bowls, bottles, all of it's useless. Candlesticks, torches I like to keep around. I'll keep one around. I don't think they go out. I like to keep, you know, paper, and definitely make sure not to sell this package. That's a newbie mistake. A lot of people will sell this package. It has no value, and it's the key into the main quest, so definitely don't sell it. And its directions are also kind of useful, just in case you get lost. These alchemy ingredients can be useful. I personally don't care that much about them, but if you're looking for it, it could be useful. So actually it's pointless. So at this point I'm going to start buying some weapons. So I always buy the iron saber here because it's a long blade. It's pretty good. It's got a good max damage. Not terrible. So I buy it. I also like to, you know, this is almost always random, like what he actually has here. So I always look for the best iron stuff he has. I think I got kind of lucky. He has greaves, curios, helmet, left gauntlet, right gauntlet, iron shield. So those are pretty good. Actually, never mind. I want the steel. Sorry. Getting the steel is the best. So greaves, helm, left and right gauntlet. So I need the curios and this right pauldron. I'm gonna look really goofy, but I'm gonna need what he's got here. So now I continue selling. So now my total sold is 111, so I'll up that a little. Let's get it to about 130. And so basically I'm selling him this stuff and getting all of the armor and weapons I'll need for a little while. So that's pretty good. There we go. We're set with him. Now you'll note that I didn't sell this engraved ring of healing, and there's a very good reason for that. I'll show you what it is. And it is the first quest of the game, and sometimes I just skip it just for fun, but I won't do that in this video. We just talked to this little guy, Fargoth, and notice how he's like, "Oh, are you the one the boat dropped off?" He swears they took his ring. Let's talk to him about that ring. I swear one of the guards has it. I had it last week before their weekly Let's Shake Down Fargoth ritual. Engraved healing ring, family heirloom of mine. You haven't seen it, have you? You can lie to him and say, no, I don't have the ring. Or you can say, yeah, I have it. Here it is. Now notice his disposition went through the roof. And he also tells Errol about you. So I could have done this and saved a little bit of money and not bribed him as much. Errol's disposition wouldn't have gone to max, so I still would have to bribe him a bit. But I wanted to show you what I always do, and I do that for every merchant, so it wasn't a big deal. So now I've given him his engraved ring of healing. I've done a little bit of good.
Think it'll rain?
Oh, this guy is... Vodunius Nuccius, you're just a little bit of a mess, aren't you? So this guy's asking to give a little advice. New here, take the Silt Strider to Vivek and Belmora. Fast and cheap, no trouble with wild animals and smugglers and bandits and outlaws. Go see Vvardenfell. So he's saying, oh, tell her that he sent him. Okay. Well, thanks. Nice guy. Yeah, so well, why don't we do that? We'll go over to the Silt Strider, which is that giant tick. Nobody tells you that, but it's what it is. We'll tell her that he sent him. I should probably equip my weapon, shouldn't I? Equip all my stuff. So I got a dope shield and a nice weapon, one pauldron, a steel helmet and steel greaves. Suddenly my guy doesn't look so cheap. I also like to buy nice clothes for my guy just because that's the kind of master I am. So he's saying, okay, you should go to Balmora. I'll say, okay. How you doing, Darvarm, Lorand? Vodunius Nuccius. Oh yes, he steers business my way, and I do him a little favor now and then. Poor fellow. I don't think he's happy here in Morrowind. And whenever you see this journal has been updated, you always know that means, okay, there's a quest. She mentioned that Vodunius Nuccius was happy here. Okay, well, Vodunius Nuccius is now a quest. So what's his deal? Let's find out. So let's find out whether or not he's happy here. Alright, what's up, brother? Anything I can do for you, funky student? Hell yeah, man. Talking about you. Not happy here. In fact, no, I'm not. If I had 100 drakes, I'd be on the next boat to Narcissus. I came here to make my fortune. All I've got is this cursed ring. Say, would you give me 100 drakes for it? The ring itself is worth more than that, but the enchantment is cursed and no one will buy it from me. It has a nifty little enchantment that helps you run faster. Problem is, it sucks the blood right out of you. Oh, it sounds great. But I always do it just because I'm a nice guy. Thank you, you're a lifesaver. I'll grab the next boat out of here. Thanks again, and I hope your luck here is better than mine was. So, you know, that's just one way of doing that. You know, you don't have to do that, but... yeah, so that's like a good little newbie quest, if you have the money, which I do. So, it gives us this little thing. Its value is 100, so eventually I can sell it. It's pretty much totally useless, though, so don't worry about it. Okay, now let's do some other quests. What else we got around here? Hey, how's it going? These guards usually have something to say. They always kind of are jerks, but if you talk to them, there's always something going on. My son was recently shipped out to Fort Frostmoth on the island of Solstheim. I don't know what he did to deserve that, but it couldn't have been good. My journal's been updated. Huh. That's the frozen island up to the north, right? Sounds awful to me. If you're looking to get there, you might check for transportation and cool. Well, thanks. We'll keep that in mind. Don't try to fight when you're tired. They always give you a little bit of advice, so you should actually pay attention to this. This is important. This is kind of like key to this game. Yeah. So, give us some information. Thanks. What's going on over
Yes?
here? How you doing?
You want something,
Held a
friend?
fire. I've seen your red guard face before. Would you like a little advice, or are you looking for someone in particular? And basically every townsperson says this. They'll like ask you, you know, they'll tell you like who's important around here, you know. So he's saying like Errol runs the trade house, Cosades Fargoth is the chief agent. Basically, since this is a tiny little town, there's not much going on here. What's the latest news? I've heard that the local tax collector, Processus Vitalis, is missing. No surprise, really. He wasn't well liked around here. Huh. Services. Get food and sundries from Errol's trade house. Do you find anyone who offers training? Not much in the else way of services. Let's go check that out. Food, sundries, training. Also, I think that guy in the other place mentioned that you could get better directions to Balmora from somebody in Errol's trade house. So let's find out. What's up? How you doing? So, my cousin claimed he saw a city in the water near Narmok. He's a drunkard, though, and spends too much time in the sun. Well, I don't know where Narmok is, but we'll keep that in mind. You know, specific place. There's Errol's trade house, the Census and Excise offices, and a lighthouse. Silt Starter service goes to Vivek, Balmora, Nisus, and Suren. Road goes north past Pelagia to Balmora, and east to Vivek, and southeast to Ebonheart. So, you know, you can always look at this world map and kind of see where stuff is. We have Balmora on it, and this Moonmoth Legion fort for some reason, and Pelagia out here, but nothing else, because we're that cool. So, she didn't have much to say. Okay, Riskar. We recognize him from this note. You look like you'd use a felon friend, Outlander. Perhaps I can be your friend. I'd like you to help me recover some gold. Oh, interesting proposition. That's right. See, I had a run of bad luck playing 9 holes and lost a bit of money. Normally I'd be fine. We can usually keep some gold in our pockets. So he's saying he usually gets money from Fargoth. Well, I know he's stashing his money somewhere. I'd like to find Fargoth's hiding place. Well, what do you got? I know the little fetcher's got one somewhere in town. Not sure where yet. I've already gone through his whole house, so I know he's not hiding it there. I'd like you to find out where he's stashing his gold. If you can, I'll give you a share of the wealth. Are you up for it? I'll do it. Excellent. Here's what I want you to do. I'm not sure where he goes, but I know he wanders around town at night. Watch his movements. The best vantage point is up on top of the lighthouse south of town. That will give you a nice view of all Citadine. If you keep an eye on where he goes, I'm sure we'll be able to find out where he's hiding that gold. Yeah, so this is a new quest about Fargoth.
Speak up.
Rafflod the Braggart, he gives some training. He'll give you training in medium armor, long blade, and block, but otherwise he's not very useful. Elone, she's the one that I wanted to talk to, and she gives us a lot of information. And I will talk to her next time. I hope you enjoyed this. It's my new Let's Play. Hope you found it informative, and next time we will continue on doing a few more Citadine quests. We'll also do our first dungeon, and we might get to the next city. I'm not certain, but until next time, have a great day.